Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Something to Drink On. My name is No Crook, your host, and with me today I have Miss Indiana Global, right? And first runner-up Miss Global for the U.S., Jess Hopper.
Hey,
Hey, so it has been a while since we've chatted,
I know. Just a few years, right?
like 4 years, no big deal.
No big deal. Don't say that. That means I'm old. Don't say that. Don't count the years.
I won't tell on you then. Um,
Yeah.
Another friend back from college. It seems like I keep reaching back and finding more and more people who kind of connect, reconnect, and talk about stuff that they're into, stuff they enjoy, and that's kind of what this is all about. Unfortunately, today I wasn't able to plan out the specific drink of choice for us to enjoy.
Oh man.
Normally do, but that's all right. I'm sure I can get back up on that. I'm kind of starting to feel like that was a weird gimmick anyway, but
Oh, I love it.
I appreciate that. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Pageants. You've been doing them forever, pretty much.
Yeah. I actually started them when I graduated college. It was kind of this thing. I was a local Jasper County Fair Queen Court person, in like when I was like 22 or something, and somebody had approached me and said, "Hey, you should do like go on and do pageants." And I was like, "No, I'm way too busy. I'm like getting 2 degrees and blah 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 blah." And they're like, "No, that's exactly what they want in a pageant girl. Is they want somebody who's like, conquering the world." And at that time, I was pretty uneducated about them myself. So I was like, no, that's okay. I'll just wait. I don't know if that's really for me. Because a lot of people don't know, but I'm actually a huge tomboy. I mean, you can't see me right now, but like I'm wearing a pink blazer, which is the complete opposite of really what I do. But yeah, so I'm pretty, I'm pretty much a tomboy at heart. So I didn't really think I actually, belonged in pageants. But then this lady just kept like hounding me until I graduated college, and she's like, "You're free now. Like you should do pageants." And so I entered my first one in 2018, which was Miss Supranational, which is a part of the Grand Slam, so like global pageants. I was ranked 11th there and became the national Miss Congeniality. So that was enough to sell me. I had such a great time. And the directors were amazing. So I just kept going. And then I developed my platform for Safe Homes for Children, where I was able to share my story. So it's just been like 4 years, 3 to 4 years of developing more than just like stage presence, but who I am as a person. And then, I mean, I can't even I can't even begin to count all the blessings that have come from it.
Yeah, no, I know I've been following you on Facebook, and just kind of watching all the amazing stuff you've been doing, all the success you've had with it, over the past couple years. It's actually been really cool to see because, like, you know, out of a lot of the friends from college, like you're the one that I'm following. Well, you and Luke, but Luke is a whole special of
Whole different individual.
yeah, he is a very super individual. Um, but no, like I want to talk to you because like you said, you were kind of ignorant going into it. I'm very ignorant
Yeah.
about pageants and what that kind of competition looks like. TLC shows never interested me, so I never tried to pay attention to it enough. Maybe give perspective to some other people who don't know what it's all about. Like, is it just about
Absolutely.
being pretty and like somewhat charismatic, or like what's more to it?
Absolutely. So usually that is the first impression. Even mine was, that's where the pretty girls are. What people see actually on television, and for example, I had, oh, I'm so sorry, there's a dog barking at me. My neighbor's dog. Um, oh Lord, Remy, if you do not stop it right now. Um, yeah, so like for example, on Miss World, America, I was in Las Vegas last year and I made top 10. So that actually showcased on Amazon Prime right now. And a lot of people don't know that what we do on that stage that you see on television is only a very, very small portion of our competition. What everyone sees is just the showcase, the like the final end all get all. We've actually spent a whole week, and sometimes you can spend up to 3 weeks competing before you actually get to before the audience sees that live showcase. So there's a lot of things that go into
The
it.
competing process like then? Because that's more what I'm curious about. Like, what is that
Yeah,
mentality? What is that kind of dynamic for you as an individual who goes into that?
yeah. So the three most popular areas of competition, because it does depend on the pageant, are interview, swimsuit, and evening gown. Those are the three that are well known. So interview is behind closed doors with the judges one on one. They can last from anywhere from 3 minutes to 10 minutes, depending on the type of pageant. Um, those are the three main areas that people know about. But I have competed. Some pageants have had fitness runway. When I did Miss World America, I actually faced off with the other queens, and I had a fitness challenge, which was perfect. I loved that part. And then some have runway, some have fitness runway, some have evening gown runway, social media challenges, entrepreneur challenges. There's a wide space, but I would say the three that you can find in every single pageant is the swimsuit, evening gown, and the interview.
Okay. So I guess the other part of it is because I notice when you win these pageants, it seems like, what does that mean? What does that represent for you? Like, obviously, you won those three areas, but like, what do judges look for? What is it you're actually succeeding in those situations? Again, I'm completely ignorant, so I'm asking genuinely, not like sarcastic,
Yeah,
being.
no, absolutely.
And then,
So
you know,
go ahead.
once you do have that success, what does that mean for you to win a pageant?
So again, it's kind of, it depends on the specific pageant
Okay.
and how the percentages fall. So for example, the last pageant, Miss Global United States, my interview was, I believe, 20% of the actual judging. And then I was judged on a photo shoot because this one was a modeling pageant. So each pageant focuses on something different. So
Oh,
I've competed on things that were beauty with a purpose. So like some are more platform based. So they always like the pretty face. That never really changes. But they're looking for a girl with more of a message. What does her community service look like? And then other pageants look at, like, for example, this last one was looking for a model. They wanted who can walk a runway, who can nail a photo shoot no matter who we put her with, who is going to be the model icon for the United States. Um, which usually they look at swimsuit because that's such a big category. So depending on the pageant, depends on what the type of girl they're looking for. Something
okay.
that I like to do is, I'm a very diverse person, and so I'm very much up to trying all the different styles of pageants. So I like doing the platform base because of my message is extremely important to me. And then I also like staying fit. So competitions that emphasize swimsuit, I also enjoy, because I like to take care of my body and things. And then this one with modeling, I've been modeling for about 3 years now. So that was another way to push myself.
Okay. So it really is varied as far as like how you succeed in these competitions, and it's based off of predominantly your skill and being able to kind of morph into what they're looking for.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. So it's kind of well, I don't want to say jack of all trades because I guess you have to master a few things in order to be successful in those scenarios. But I guess my question then, following up, because you mentioned your message is really important. So what is
Mhm.
your main message then?
So in 2017, I created Safe Homes for Children, which is my personal brand. That is the whole message behind that is putting an end to this, to the cycle of child abuse. So I grew up in an abusive home for 18 years, and actually was put in a girls' home at one point and had lived in different people's homes. Wasn't foster care, but was borderline on those lines.
Right.
And so when I went to school, I wanted to make sure I was getting degrees that could help other children like me.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what I did when with interpersonal and psychology and family science. And then don't ask about dance performance. That was like out in left field compared to the rest of my degrees. Um, and then I went into social work right afterwards because I wanted to deal with this head on. So Indiana is currently the third worst state for the welfare system when it comes to children. And after working 3 years in that, I saw how much of a need there was for change in Indiana. And the first and second places, you could probably guess California and New York. But when it comes down to population and the amount of children we have, Indiana is actually the worst.
Yeah, absolutely.
And yeah, and so going through that, paired with my story, I decided that I was going to focus on four main areas. So safe, because it's called safe homes. The S stands for stability for children, which is extremely important for their success, and understanding what that is. A is for allocation of resources, especially in our state. And Terry Stignan has been doing an amazing job in Indiana since she's taken over in 2018. But unfortunately, we won't see ramifications of that for another 5 to 10 years due to the lovely government. And then we'll put it that way. And then F is for understanding what a healthy family unit is, whether we're creating a new family or being reunited with a biological. I'm 27 years old, and I mean, I just started having a relationship with my biological mom, like a real relationship with her in the last 2 years. Like anything is possible, but I also have other people that I consider my mom as well because they stepped in to fill that role.
Right, right.
Yeah, and then E is for education, making sure that our social workers, our school systems, everyday individuals actually understand the effects of trauma. So a lot of it is an awareness campaign. I do have a social media campaign where a photographer did retrospective photos into my childhood and my past. So there's like no makeup, there's messy hair, and we brought props from things I had growing up. And we have used those photos to launch the campaign, which has been incredible. As a result of that, I was nominated for the Global Beauty Awards, which is the red carpet of pageantry.
Wow.
Yeah, for my message. And then I won Beauty with a Purpose at Miss World America. I was the fourth runner-up for Beauty with a Purpose in the nation. And then just the kiddos that have reached out over social media saying like, hey, this is happening to me. Your story matches mine. How do I get help? Or the fear of, hey, I've heard the foster care system is much worse and I want to stay here with my mom, even though it hurts. So what should I do? How can you help?
Yeah.
The stories that have come out of it have just been just incredible.
Yeah, I remember a church I was going to a few years back. They were talking about safe families and talking about like, how that benefits the situations we have in Indiana. I mean, nationwide as well, but like you said, Indiana definitely being a very heavy area for that issue.
Oh yeah, it's
And
crazy.
and I actually remember when we were in college. I remember sometimes when we sit at the library and you tell me about like some of the stuff that you've been through. And I was like, yeah. And I'm very happy to see that you've used that fuel and created a very big fire to that. Like I genuinely am so happy for you. That's awesome. I love
Thanks.
that happen. It's kind of like a redemption arc, like your own personal redemption story.
It is. I think that's what's the coolest part is I want it to be, and that's people ask me why do pageants, and I was even asked that even at this modeling pageant. They're like, why do you compete? And for me, it's there are a lot of children's voices inside my head, just from the ones I've worked with that I've seen. That child that I was growing up that didn't have a lot of hope, those are the kiddos, the voices in their like are in my head. And so every time I'm on stage, no matter how difficult it is, because I'm not in an easy world, I'm in a world that's consumed with people judging me based off of my looks and how I present myself. And and I mean that's the reality of it.
Kind of been there the whole time, just now you're using it for your benefit, right?
Right, exactly. So some people ask like, how do you keep going? Because there's been some crazy stories in pageantry. I've been food poisoned. Like I've been, it's been
Whoa, hold up. Say that again?
Yeah, somebody has given me food poisoning so I wouldn't win. It has been crazy. It's unreal. And then like there's some scandals that happen and like last year, people don't know, but I was in Miami for Miami Swim Week and I had entered a specific pageant which shall name nameless, but you can put two and two together from last year in Las Vegas. And my sister queen, Miss Michigan, got dethroned because of political racist comments and she took it to the media. So she was on CNN, she was on Dr. Phil. And because I was her sister queen, because our director of Michigan and Indiana were the same, I started getting threats. And all this came out while I was in Miami. So like my hotel was getting death threats from like political activists. Like, where's your Miss Indiana? Like, what is she saying? Like, is she gonna support her sister queen or is she gonna stay quiet with Miss World America? Oop, name drop. And you know, what is she gonna do? So I had to fall off social media for probably about, I would say, a good 2 weeks. And people were like, why isn't Jessica posting? She's in Miami, like she's modeling, like what's going on? But it was crazy. The designers, I had to let the designers know what was happening, which was super embarrassing for me because like I had to be like, hey guys, so can't put me in photos because there's people trying to like hurt me. Like it's great. Which they were super. I model for like the best company in the entire world, this guy is somewhere. They are the best. Beautiful human beings. So of course they were just like, how do we protect you? Like, what do we need to do? Instantly like pulled things on social and Instagram to make my life easier. It was just, yeah, it's been some crazy stuff. Yeah, I have lots of stories.
Oh my gosh. I would love to actually hear more of those sometime because that sounds like it's been a trip. Like
Yeah, I mean, and then people ask like, why do you keep doing them? Hey, you know what? I think I was made for a little bit of crazy. So
yeah, that is a fact. That is
yeah, I mean, I mean, it is what it is.
it is.
Women are crazy.
Oh, you're good. And I think the way you're talking about it now, it seems like you took it in stride at least to the extent that you can. Like being poisoned, being like put in a social media almost disaster, which nowadays is
Like the end of the world.
like pretty much the end of somebody's career in some situations.
Yeah,
Which I mean,
yeah.
some of those justified, arguably, but other,
Hmm.
you know, it is. It's a crazy time right now. Social media. It's a crazy time with almost everything in our country right now is a little crazy.
Completely agree.
It just, just I don't know what avenue to go down with that. Like there's so many. Um, and I don't know how politically charged I wanna get this conversation just yet.
Right? I'm used to pageantry. I do relate it to that at some point. There is so much. There is. I love pageants. Do not get me wrong, but there is so much politics in pageantry that I've honestly considered running for office because of the way we have to do things and live our lives. Like, man, I could be a politician because they're practically the same thing. If you think about it, if you've watched like House of Cards and things like that and the maneuvers and everything, pageantry is very similar. Like how you each experience you gain more connections and you get this new image and what you do to protect that image and keep it going, what your branding and messaging is going to be, putting your best face forward, not getting into political debates on social media,
Well, yeah,
because
that's
I have opinions and I can't say really any of them in
unless
public.
they fit a certain box, right?
Yep.
Yep. No, I get that, and I mean, what you exactly described sounds like a political campaign. Have a platform, put it out there, keep growing it, keep developing it, develop your, that entire idea to me is, I think you're right. I think, and the other thing is with how you actually already have a platform in the sense of say families and the sense of like, obviously you're involved somewhat in discussing government issues and discussing these sort of topics. So I think you stepping into something like that would actually be really cool. It'd be cool to see like, hey, we have a lady governor or a lady, mayor at least or something like that. That'd be really cool.
Oh
Well,
yeah, I 100% want to be Leslie Knope someday. Indiana. I mean, as long as I get to meet Peyton Manning at some point, like, I'll be governor for anything because that's
That's the one
still
reason
my dream.
I really want to is just meet.
That that is like my dream. Like when he left Indianapolis. So fun fact, I am a huge NFL football freak.
Yeah.
Don't get me started on fantasy football season. Like I'm waiting intensely to find out if we're starting football season and what's gonna happen because I don't know what my life will be like this fall. I live for football. And when Peyton left, it was very sad for me. I had I had a breakdown. So I don't break down easily. But that one was a little rough in my house. So
Oh man, no,
yes, that's my goal someday.
to meet Peyton. Hey, that's a doable goal, especially with where you're at right now.
Oh yeah. Just waiting for it. Just
Just
waiting for it to happen.
waiting for that passing to happen. The
Oh yeah. Where you at, Peyton?
uh okay. Well, I mean, that's an interesting goal. I mean, okay, so let's see. We talked about your runner-up nationally.
Mhm.
You have a nonprofit organization to support
Mhm.
kids kind of in the foster system, but like also trying to stay out of the foster system in some regards.
Yeah, child abuse for prevention mainly.
Okay. Um, even better actually. Um, and you have a dream to meet Peyton Manning. So I mean, so far we have some pretty good basics here. Oh, and you want to be Leslie Knope, which is just
Yes.
on top. It's working, so there you go.
Absolutely.
um, so I know me and you went to a Christian college.
We sure did.
And so I'm gonna start bordering in that area because that's what I like talking about most on this podcast is religion and that kind of thing. Um,
Perfect.
so if it's red zone, just say red zone, and we can move topics or shift whatever. Um, where are you at with the whole God thing right now?
Um, my faith is extremely important to me. And I'll be honest with that one. Um, you know, just because of everything I've kind of been through, there have been ups and downs in that process. And some people have asked, like, did you ever doubt growing up or, through your experiences into your 20s, like, did you ever think that there wasn't a God? For me, that was never a question. Um, if there was one, I think my battle growing up was there is a God and he doesn't like me because he keeps letting this stuff happen to me. And so that has been my greatest adventure
Yeah,
in life, in my faith. Now it's completely different. Like I said, every year I feel like I'm learning more. Just when I'm like, man, God, we're in a great place. He's like, hey, wants you to become a better person. So here's like 50 things you need to work on. You know,
which I
so
mean doesn't help the achiever in you already, right?
right, yeah. I'm like, wait, and anytime and people say that, I'm like, man, if there's any time in my life where I feel like things are going smoothly, I start to worry because one of my challenges is I've told God, like, I want to continue to be a better person. And I know that that means that you're going to have to tear some things out of me that are not fun and pleasant. And, but that's kind of how I live my life. Is I don't expect to be perfect. I want people to see where I'm flawed. I want them to see the journeys. I want them to see that I'm not perfect because I think that's the only way. I mean, because I'm very much a outgoing dominant person, God is very much an outgoing dominant person too, individual. And so it's understanding like when to take a back seat. So sometimes my um, learning experiences are more open and out for everyone to see, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think it does. I think it's because part of it is you're already a very open person with everything that you're doing. So seeing those processes, seeing those challenges, yeah, I get what you mean. It's more there. It's more present.
Yeah. And
Um,
I always want to be honest about that part, because I think some people have some mis or think that Christians, or not everybody, and I hate to even use the label as Christians. It's like saying I'm Republican or Democrat. I rather not associate myself with a party. I have my beliefs, and I want humanity to succeed. Like that's what it comes down to.
I you saying that so much.
Like, and that's how I feel about faith. Is like, yes, I'm a Christian. I proclaim that I'm a Christian. I tell, and constantly in interviews, because I always tell God the same thing, even in pageants, is I will praise you if I win, and I will praise you if I lose.
Right.
And that has happened. Has where I've watched off stage and I'm not the winner, and I have to say that to myself, like, God, I said I was going to praise you if I don't win, and that's when I help my heart, because that's what I need to do right now.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. And I mean, I remember some of our conversations that we had in college, and like you said, you had some low points, but you always had this kind of string. And I actually do even remember you being like, I think God's mad at me or God hates me. I was like, no, God doesn't. That's not how God works. Come on now,
Exactly.
I do remember that actually when you were talking about it.
Yeah. Well, you have to give a little bit of pretense in that. So in college for 2 years, maybe 3 of the years. So I didn't have a home to go back to in between college.
Yep.
So I was living out of my car for most of the summers, because we weren't in the dorms. And then when I got my house my senior year, then I had somewhere to kind of be and go at that point, which is crazy. So
I don't think you ever told me that.
yeah.
You probably didn't
You know,
tell a lot of people that at that point.
I didn't. I did not tell a lot of people those things. Just because that didn't feel like that's who people. It's not that I ever tried to hide those things. I just don't think people even understood or knew either. I mean, that's just like nobody knew really about the true essence of my growing up and my experiences growing up until after I had graduated college. And I didn't even know that that was the right time to say anything. It was kind of, God said, here. Well, I gave my story at the state house in 2018, because they asked me to speak at child abuse and prevention, the event there, with Lieutenant Governor Suzanne Crouch. And I remember telling my statement. Next thing I know, I'm a highlight on Google search, and like there's a picture of me and my story, and I had no idea that they were reporting my story. And I guess like I never said no, and I never said yes, but it was just kind of like, oh, well, now it's out there for everybody to see. And my life drastically changed that year. But I've told God, like, if the situation comes up and I'm asked to tell my story, I'll do it, because I think the only reason I went through those things was that so someday I could be the voice of children.
Well, and I know in college it always seemed like nobody really kind of knew who you were, because like that part of you was very much still not hidden. In some ways
It was there.
but yeah, it was there, but it wasn't there, like,
Right. It was there, but it just wasn't there.
it just wasn't talked about.
Yeah. I was just outgoing. I did a lot of things. I think I consumed myself, and people always just thought, oh, that's the girl who does student government, or that's the girl that does that.
That's the girl who does everything.
Yeah, pretty much.
Which hasn't really
That's what I did. Which, yeah, really hasn't changed. Nope.
But now there's like much more positivity. It feel like talking to you right now, I feel like there's much more positivity. There's much more happiness, contentment, peace, very much so than, where you were at that point. And like you said, a lot of change, a lot of good has happened. And again, I'm very happy to see that and hear that.
Thank you.
But I did think it was funny how you said, you claim the label Christian, but you also kind of don't like claiming the label because it feels weird. Kind of like you said, it feels like almost a political statement at this point.
Yeah.
I agree. I don't like that that's the reality we live in right now, where it feels like claiming a sense of idea as a political statement, but I also don't like how some people claim a political ideology and then tie it to things. So yeah, I know it's annoying, but that's kind of something I'm avoiding, but I'm also avoiding other things. So I don't know how much of my other stuff you've listened to so far, but one big thing for me is I went to seminary after we graduated,
Right.
and I was there for 2 years, and a lot of stupid things happened. Mostly because I realized that the standards the church had and wanted for me to follow as somebody who is a leader in a church, I didn't want to. And that
That's fair.
you're right, yeah. And I was just like, oh, this isn't something I really want to do. And then when I left, I started reflecting more on my experiences in churches and my experience with other leadership and my friends' experiences trying to be church leaders as well. And man, I gotta tell you, it put a very bad light on the church as a whole.
Mm.
And so I was like, huh, maybe I don't want to call myself a Christian, really. And like I still really like Jesus. I still
Oh
love
yeah.
the Bible studying, all the like more intense like academic side of theology. Like I love that very much.
Right.
But for me, it was like, huh, I don't think I want to be a part of this. I don't want to say, well, yeah, I don't want to be a part of a system that feels like it's not consistent enough to be self-aware to work on the things that need to be worked on,
Yeah.
if that makes sense. So,
Yeah. 100%.
so after I left seminary, I kind of took some time, worked through a few things, did some more stupid things, and then experimented with some other things. And I was like, oh, hey, this is interesting. And I'm like, oh, well, I have a whole new perspective. This past year specifically, I've been working through and reading and listening to some more Buddhist kind of perspectives on
Yeah.
things, which are fascinating because they're very consistent with how Jesus talks about most things, which I really enjoy. So I'm like, oh hey, I kind of get this already, um,
Yeah.
and it's been very nice to have a more consistent message, it feels like, in the sense of like who I've been listening to and like how they're connected. So like this guy, Rob Bell, right? Started with me
Hmm.
listening to him. He's not Buddhist, but he's a Christian, kind of on the edges of differing theology.
Spirituality.
Yeah, and then I kind of went from him to this guy named Pete Holmes, who is a comedian, who he has a podcast called "You Made It Weird." It's hilarious. He interviews other comedians, talks about God, talks about drugs, all this fun stuff, and I'm like, this is fantastic. This is a cool guy. And then
Talks about drugs. Talks about God. All the fun things.
right, in different ways, right? And
Yeah.
and then he talks about Ram Dass and a couple other people that I've been looking into and listening to more, and this guy named Duncan Trussell, which he's the one who did the Midnight Gospel on Netflix. I don't know if you watched
Ooh,
it. It's super trippy.
no.
Um,
Oh well.
the animators from Adventure Time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, right. But like with this really like trippy podcast commentary, kind of as the like what's going on in the background, but like what you're actually seeing visually is like some weird pseudo apocalyptic scenario. It's weird, but it's really cool. And they often represent like what's being discussed kind of in the background by the characters, but it's like bits and pieces from his own personal podcast that he does.
Okay.
So yeah, but just stuff like that I've been getting really into and listening to kind of some different things, and uh, that's been really fulfilling for me in different ways. But that's kind of where I'm at with God. And I don't know. I understand you're like you said you're Christian, but like
Hmm.
you, what does some of that represent? Like these different ideas, like Buddhism, like hallucinogenics. If that's what you don't want to talk on, you don't have to. But like just these ideas, I've been kind of bouncing around my head. I like talking to people about it, getting their opinions.
Yeah. I like these questions only because I've never been asked. I've never been asked these. Yeah, as a pageant girl, I'm in interviews consistently all the time, and never been asked. So I'm trying to think here. These are thinkers. Okay. So Christianity. So ask your question again about, you said something about being a Christian, or like my thoughts around it.
Okay,
Just say it one more time.
definitely rambling a little, so let me try to make it a
No,
question.
you're good.
Um, so with Christianity, do you think? I don't want to ask you if you think there's issues with the church because I think you already have an answer for that. Um,
Yeah.
what are your thoughts on like other religions and kind of
Mm.
their inherent connection to like the same idea of God?
Yeah, I actually find it super intriguing. I think my mind the last couple years have definitely has been more educated on those topics. I have a lot of girls that are Hindu that I pageant coach because in Indianapolis we do have a large Indian population, and I have about maybe 4 or 5 girls that are Hindu, and I get to go to their homes sometimes and get to experience like their lifestyle. And I think what's intriguing to me is everybody I meet, I feel like who's either like Buddhist, Hindu, which are the two that I mainly have had experience with, um, are just so sweet and nice. I think their essence of, I kind of said it before, but just making sure that humanity is thriving as the focus rather than who's right and wrong. Like I don't see them getting into the American politics the same way, or like whether it's a question of abortion or not abortion, or Trump or no Trump. It is a matter of just the actual essence of what makes life beautiful and how do we keep that.
Yeah.
It's never those specific questions. It's they always turn it around to something different, which I think is, in my opinion, that's what I appreciate because that's what I try to do. Whenever I get asked a political question, like in an interview or anything else, or when people say like, "Do you think your faith? Can you talk about it openly as a queen?" But what if somebody else has a different opinion? Like, I really don't care. My job as a human being and my faith in God is to show love to others, and I think that has been distorted over the years of what true love that God designed is for people, and my job is to make sure that I'm loving people. So if somebody has made a decision that I don't agree with, that's not you will never hear me go like that wasn't right. um my job is to like understand where that was coming from and educating myself. And I think that's kind of what they do. They embrace their surroundings. I mean, I'm a very big nature person, so I'm not like going up hugging trees and stuff like that. But I mean, I probably do. Actually, I can't really say that because in the swimsuit photo last week, I was hugging a tree. I really was. Yeah, I just remembered that.
Oh, that's great.
But I like for me, like some people get their energy. We were in psych together. Like we know psychology. Some people get their energy from being in groups of people or being alone or dancing, whatever their thing is. And for me, it's being outside. It's nature.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of why I feel like I relate to Buddhist and in that sense of I think, but nature. I mean, God created it, and they believe that there's a God too. So it's just kind of interesting to me to see those values are actually very similar to what
Oh yeah. Oh,
what kind of God designed.
oh no, I absolutely agree. See, before I left seminary, I started developing an idea of God where it's like, okay, well, if God created everything, then inherently God has to be a part of everything that's also here. And so
Hmm.
it kind of became this very Buddhist idea of just the universe and everything being so interconnected, and God being me, you, the the bad carpet that's on my floor, literally everything. Uh, just because inherently it's here, it was created by that same thing, and I'm able to sit here and enjoy it and kind of perceive things and enjoy things as they are. And so that was already something I had. And so then when I left and I started listening to these other ideas, like some of them Hindu, some of them Buddhist, and I was like, oh, well, I like this. So it's like a shopping cart going down like the aisle, and being like,
Yeah.
cool. Oh, this is neat too. Let's put this in the reincarnation. Huh. I guess that would be a pretty trippy idea. Just just processing
Yeah.
things and thinking about, you know, the reality is we only know God as much as we think we know God.
Mm,
So the possibility
mm,
of what that is much bigger, and I think much more fun of a topic than just to say, well, you're probably going to hell now since you had sex before marriage, or because you smoked the marijuana. Um,
The marijuana.
no, just different things like that. I agree. It's really frustrating, especially with you coming from a social work perspective. Um,
Mm,
seeing people who are in this religious system that is supposed to be very similar to what you're doing, being so judgmental because our priority is saving souls, but not saving them while they're still alive. Um, if that
yeah.
makes sense. Like we're focused on this future rather than focusing on what's in front of us, and I think that's really where a lot of religions get messy, because
Yeah.
we focus too much on what's possibly coming rather than the people in front of us who need what you're talking about, who need that idea of beauty, who need somebody to
Mm,
come along and remind them like, hey, things are still good, you are still good, you are still here, and I love you. Just something
yes.
like
Yes. Yes. Yeah. I mean, I could go on for hours about organized religion, but
that.
I mean, to this day, and I'll be very authentic about this. I struggle with stepping into a church. Um,
Percent.
but
I feel
I, yeah, but I know some wonderful individuals. Like I associate with the specific church. Um, you know, and when I say associate, I mean I get their emails, and I mean, and I watch them. I watch them online and stuff since everything's changed COVID, and it's a pretty outgoing church. And I've met with the pastor, I've talked to him and everything, and the heart is there. I think it's just the fact of I am more of the individual over the last several years that has realized that my relationship is with me and God, and I spent a long time people judging what that looked like for me rather than me enjoying the presence of who He is. And so I missed out on a lot of just embracing, like you were talking about, the beauty. Like, are you, looking outside and like, man, you understand now, like, you see God everywhere. Like, you kind of do. Like, you realize you do. He's in everything. And so being able to embrace that and, in my mind and everything else, I think it's just so important. So it's not that I think that churches are inevitably bad or anything. There's lots of good, and we're doing lots of good. Like our church partners with um, the organization I partner with, and they are actually doing a lot for child abuse prevention. And I appreciate that because that's what groups are supposed to be doing. We're supposed to be the hands of God. I just think that when so many people get together, sometimes opinions are formed, and we tend to get clicky. And that's natural. That's what we do as human beings. It's one of our faults. You put me in a group with my own friends, we get clicky. If you're not in my friend group, sometimes people, we don't know you the same way, and so judgments are made, or even unconscious thoughts are made. Um, and so I think the same thing happens when we're in those types of institutions and we only associate with those institutions. We keep ourselves from the everyday essence. So I mean, I'm one of those people that's between me and God. Um, like growing up, nobody knew exactly my life. People still don't know everything about my life. They don't know how hard it is, and the conversations between me and God in my head sometimes of let's not do that. Or hey God, I'm real ticked off right now. You want to help me out because I'm trying. like, you know, um, and to the rest of the world, it could come around, oh, like that's abrasive, but that's me being real because that's when you read God's word, like that's really what it wants, and is He just wants us to be real with Him. He doesn't need the fake crap.
No, I agree, and I like that. I like that your idea of God is a very it's very give and take, but it's not like how other people think of God as like an exchange rate system. Like I can tell the way that you're talking about it, it's different than what sometimes frustrates me, where it's like, God, if I do this, will you give me this? You know,
Yeah.
I don't feel like that's where you're at. I think you've gotten, uh, you've experienced humility from a young age, where you kind of clung to this thing of like, okay, when is this going to get better? When is this going to get better? and it finally is, and you're embracing it even more, which I think is wonderful. Um,
Well, I mean, God never promised an easy life. So whenever things get hard, I start to think like, hey man, you must be doing something right. Um
mm,
in that sense. So I fully have accepted that my life will never be easy. So and I mean it's true.
and-
And I'm actually like if you go inside my house during COVID, I had actually started writing specific passages on my wall that I thought were relevant because there are some things that God says to us that are very, very just plain and simple. And you're like, how do I miss this part? So I've actually like started writing. I have like six up on my counters just so that I can reassociate that like in myself. Because I'm like I said, I'm really not perfect. I think the exchange rate that you talked about is something that we struggle with.
oh
I
yeah.
think a lot of people struggle with. And I mean, that's something that I don't believe in, but that's something that has been ingrained in me from a young age is kind of this idea, even though the church says that's not what we're about, is hey, you have to be this way um in order to live the Christian lifestyle. And if you're not living the Christian lifestyle, then it's evident that you're not walking with God. And I'm like, well, what is that Christian lifestyle? Because the Christian lifestyle is here, like in me. It's not, you can't judge actions always by the heart.
No, that's
And
100%. I think that's 100% right. Like exactly what you said. The Christian lifestyle is in your heart. It is
mhm,
it is not a group of beliefs. It is not a specific building. And I think that's one of my biggest beefs is, I agree with you. I think the church can do a lot of good things. I think it has a lot of potential to continue to grow, but when it's when it's not in somebody's own heart, but it's connected to all these other things, it's very hard to then continue opening up to other ideas, and
I agree with that.
to other things. And so that's what I think I'm most frustrated with is how the church has, I don't want to say groomed because that has a very negative connotation, but how its teachings have developed over the centuries and how at this point it's so much of a, um, like walking on eggshells with a lot of nominations, and even
Yeah,
nomination to another. I grew up Pentecostal, so
mm,
if you weren't speaking in tongues, well, then you weren't saved. Like
right,
there's a certain level of baseline that we don't have that's consistent. Kind of like what I mentioned earlier. Like there's not really a consistency to recognizing somebody as part of the. And I think that's really one of the tougher parts because that's what makes us more judgmental. That's what makes us less open, is because we
right.
determine who's in and who's out.
And you nailed it because and I completely agree because I mean, and that's what we're talking about is that relationship with Christ or our belief system and what God designed it to be. Like you can't see my heart. Like a lot of our actual relationship with God is in our head. We're talking to ourselves or or with him. A lot of that is that here and here that's not evident to the world because there's sometimes that it takes a lot. I'm just going to use an example. It takes a lot for me to walk up on stage sometimes because of things that have happened previously in a pageant or with a specific individual at a pageant. 99% of girls at pageants are absolutely wonderful, phenomenal human beings, just like me, who are conquering the world, love and just give of themselves. And then you always have that one girl. And all of my pageant sisters, if they listen to this, they'll say the same thing. There's always that one girl that nobody wants to win, that's horrible and just self-seeking, and she wins. And so sometimes we have a hard time getting back up on stage, like why do I do this when that's just the person that they're going to pick every time. Um and so there's a lot of conversations that are happening between me and God, but nobody knows that it takes a lot for me to say that nice thing to that girl or to make that Facebook post. um for example, 2 weeks ago after I got food poisoning, well, no, 3 weeks ago, 3 or 4 weeks ago. Um,
Oh wow, this was
it's
this recent.
Yeah, it wasn't for this last pageant. This last pageant was wonderful. But the pageant before that, I honestly like it broke my heart. Um, that's some of the things that happened, and I love the organization, I love the people, but, that's internal. There are things that happen internally, um, and, I had to walk off stage, and a lot of people don't know, like, I'm sitting there in my head going, like, though I was crushed because I gave everything for that title, that I'm sitting there praying to God, like, "Please, Lord, let me be nice. Let me be nice. Let them still see you through me. Like, don't let me get
Mm,
angry." Like, and because that's how I feel right now. And I need you to help me because that's not where I want to be. And that's not a good example of who I want to be portrayed. And so from that period to, posting on Facebook, like, I didn't want to post on Facebook saying my thank yous for that pageant because of the situations that had taken place that the world didn't know about.
right.
And so, and a lot of people never know the things that girls are told, things that are said to us um, while we're there, things that are said from that mean girl to us, um, you know, and so yeah, for example, for that specific situation, even coming home, and I was bombarded when I got home with messages and media and blah 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 because everyone had thought I was gonna win, and I and that was a lot for me to like go through. But and a lot of people and all people saw was the happy part, and the only reason those happy parts happen is there is a process in between that moment and what you see me portray. I'm always very authentic, so every word I say is accurate and true. So my thank yous, I needed to get myself to a place that was just like, "Thank you." Like,
They're always
God.
accurate and true, but sometimes you need some processing before you put it out.
Correct, correct, correct. That people don't get to see, and so that's where I say, like, I'm not perfect, like, I'm not there are times, like, I'm still unhappy, like, there are situations in our world, like, I had a friend who 2 days ago, she just tried to commit suicide for the second time in their pageant world,
I'm so-
and she's one of my pageant sisters. Oh, yeah, like, things happen all the time, we live in a stressful world, um,
okay.
and so, I mean,
It,
that's where it's hard for me to judge as their people, and so I wish people would embrace that fact that, like, God doesn't do that. Like, that's not how he designed us. He
what?
just wants us to love each other.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I agree. But about your friend, is she okay? Is she
Yeah, she's currently okay,
good?
yeah,
That's
she is.
yeah. My alarm went off there for a second. I was like, wait, what? That's horrible.
Yeah, there's actually I have a couple friends that their platform is suicide prevention in the pageant world, and we're a very tight knit community. So
Awesome.
like these girls are my sisters probably because we understand the world that we live in, the things that are said. Like if I could tell you the things that have been said to me in the modeling world and stuff like that, so keeping that essence, you'll never see me be negative on social or anything like that, but again, I'll never lie about something or not be truthful about how I feel about something,
Yeah.
but there's a process sometimes on my thoughts and how I get there. That's between me and God. um,
I think that's totally fair. I mean, and
yeah.
something I was thinking a few minutes ago when you said that, talking to God and kind of that internal process. And I was thinking about how you said earlier with you feeling like you get energy from being out in nature.
Mhm.
And I was sitting thinking, I was like, huh, that's kind of cool that when we spend time in ourselves as well as outside of ourselves, there's still a potential for us to still see God. Um,
Mm.
how connected that can be, and like you said, with everything going on, I think we need that time to digest our thoughts. Sometimes I think we need to process our political and personal opinions before we post things on Facebook. Just a little,
It is true, we do.
but it is very frustrating seeing Facebook arguments and being a part of Facebook arguments that I'm like, I'll post like one or two things, and then if it gets just too much, I just like, this isn't worth arguing anymore. It's such
Right. Yeah,
um
and some people wanna know where you stand on things, like,
and
that's why
that's
I mean, if you look at my post, so when the Black Lives Matter movement happened, you know, we'll throw that one in there. I immediately called my friends because the majority of my friends are Black individuals. And I said, hey, how are you? Like, how are you feeling right now about all of this? You know, because that's, first of all, that was the priority
Right.
before I state any opinions, is I need to be making sure that my best friends are okay, because there's a lot of stuff happening and my skin color is not that skin color and my heart hurts for you. So I can't imagine how you're feeling right now. So please, like, what can I do? Like, just let me be a sounding board. Like, what, you know, so we did. I talked to several girls and guys during that time, and just soaking in like things that they were saying, things that, you know, they had felt.
Yeah.
And that was what was important to me during that time. It was not, everyone knew, like, I posted, I said, obviously Black Lives Matter. And then I said, I think I'm pretty sure I posted, be kind, like, or love all, period. Like, that's, there's nothing else that needs to be said. Like, there's nothing else that needs to be said. Be nice. Like, that's all there is to it. Like, stop. You know, and that's why I don't go into like controversial things, is like, I keep it short and simple in that essence. And my priority is making sure that the individuals I'm surrounding myself with are okay and they know that they are loved and supported. Um, and that's kind of like how we handled, you know, that specific situation.
Yeah. No, and that's definitely your like social work and psych side coming out there, as well as like, you know, trying to pulse on the situation from people who are experiencing that more directly. And I think that's awesome. I know for me, I was there was one day specifically where I was working through like how I felt about everything, like with Corona, with Black Lives Matter, with the political drama.
Chaos.
Yes, that is the best word for it. Um, and I kind of came up with a mantra that I posted on Facebook, kind of similar to what you said with be kind. It was let love fill what hate has destroyed. Let love fill what fear has ripped away. Let love fill the space anxiety has made. Let love fill me. Let love fill me. And like
Yeah,
that's kind of my go-to right now with
everything.
yeah, pretty much. That's all I can say. Like it's it's a mess, and we're making it through it. And I think you're absolutely right. I think the best way we can do that is being kind to each other, and being generous with our patients as well.
That's, yeah, that's correct.
All right, I know you have a thing coming up here in a second, but I have one question that I'm stealing.
Yeah,
Well, two questions, because I didn't ask at the beginning, and I told myself I would ask everybody this. What's your favorite
yeah.
and why?
What's my favorite what?
Color and why?
Favorite color. Mm. And, you know, I'm gonna be real cliche here. I'm gonna say pink.
Knew that was gonna be your color. I just wanted to make sure.
If you, I don't know if you can see me, but I was wearing a pink blazer and I have like a pink watch. I have pink earrings on. Pink, but most of my life I would have not said that. But I also really like blues, and I know because I'm analytical. Um, and yellow just because it's bright and shiny like the sun. But
So so
that's
then
my favorite
so then why is pink your favorite?
because I feel bold and fiery when I wear pink. So I don't know if it's because I'm blonde. So like when people like
That
see
is a
me, my cheeks.
wonderful answer.
Well, yeah. So like I have high cheekbones because of my Native American like heritage, and so when I wear pink, it like offsets. So I don't necessarily like. I don't think I look like Barbie or anything. There are moments where I can, but if my hair is up and things, it just makes me feel, yeah, like fiery, and like I feel, yeah, I feel confident, I guess, when I'm wearing pink. Like, hey,
Is it
Jessica's here.
kind of like a Legally Blonde thing where you just imagine you're Elle Wood secretly, and you're like, "Yep, that's my badassness coming out."
That is okay. That's true. I actually have an outfit. So I'm in my actual day job is I'm a financial strategist.
Right.
So I'm kind of a nerd. I'm huge with numbers, and I I have an outfit. So I actually dress up every day, and I have an outfit that reminds you everybody. As soon as I tried it on, my stylist was like, legally or financially blonde. They changed it from legally blonde to financially blonde is what they call me. because I'm also one of the only females who do my job because most are, let's just be honest, white males who do my job in the finance industry. And I'm literally, I think, the one of, if not the only, but one of maybe two females that do my job regionally. So it is
Wow.
funny, but they're like so great and supportive. Like they support me for every pageant. Like none of the guys get it, but like their wives get it. They're they're great, but there is a joke. I'm financially blonde instead of legally
I think
blonde.
that's wonderful. I think that's awesome. And then my last question, I'm going to steal from Pete Holmes. What is a time that you can remember recently or in the past where you have laughed just hard, so hard that your sides hurt?
Oh, that's a good one. Hmm. I have to think about because I feel like there's multiple.
That's it.
Oh, what was the most recent? What was yesterday? Yesterday was Saturday. Oh gosh. I mean, it's either something that my puppies do or because Eli cracks me up all the time. Because he's a special puppy. He does some really weird things sometimes. Um, sides hurt. I don't know. Like I listen to comedy all the time, so like that's something that happens for me. I just like to laugh.
How about this? How about who's one of your favorite comedians?
um, Chad Daniels and John Mulaney.
Okay, I don't know Chad, but I do know John. John's great.
You have to look up Chad Daniels because he talks. His comedy is his kids, and they're hilarious individuals. But yeah,
That
I was gonna say. Other than that, yeah, those are my two favorites. I love laughing.
all right. Well, I'm happy to hear that you love laughing. You're enamored by and uh, geez, there's so many ways to describe you after this conversation that I hadn't, and it's wonderful. And I'm so happy that you're glowing and just doing great.
Yeah,
Um,
thanks.
I hope that you continue being a ray of sunshine, and hope that you continue uh, showing God to other people in the way that you are. Because from this conversation, I'm very confident that you have the ability to do that, and I'm very happy to know you. So thank you.
Oh, well, thank you. Well, thanks. Thanks for having me. This has been a blast. Like, you need to do these all the time.
Well, I'm gonna start doing them more often now.
Yay!
I got my motivation back, and I'm fighting depression. So there's the thing.
Good for you. Hey, and that's the thing. It's a fight.
It
It
is.
is a fight.
All right. Well, hey, I'll let you go. I know you have an appointment, and yeah, I'll talk to you again soon.
Awesome. Thanks.